Well, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 2 spots left to fill for the grand final roster, and they will be filled today. Let's see if anyone in the first group can get those spots, which has the hot tub, the Honda Civic, the Shelby GT, and the Tacoma. The Tacoma seems to be a bit longer of a vehicle. We'll see if that comes into play or not. Meanwhile, the hot tub actually has what looks to be an actual hot tub on the surface of the vehicle. Not sure if that's going to help or hinder them or what, but we will see. Right now they are in second, battling for the first place spot with, I believe, that to be the Shelby GT. They are going back and forth. The Shelby spins around and the hot tub passes right by them. And now they have a decent sized lead going into that last turn before the jump. The infamous jump for sure. They go up slightly, but they manage to stay on their feet for the most part, and they finish in first. Meanwhile, who will take second place? It's going to take a while for someone to get there. It looks like it might be the Tacoma, and it is. Meanwhile, the Shelby finishes in third, and the Honda Civic is way back here somewhere. They actually stopped on the peak of that jump. I guess they must have had just enough speed to get up there, but not enough to get the rest of the way. There go the Tacoma and the Shelby. Let's see what happened with the Civic. It looks like they were spinning as they went up the hill, causing them to lose all of their speed in a very short amount of time. Meanwhile, the hot tub finishes with a 19 Currently, the fastest time is still being held by the Batmobile, who appeared in day 3. But so far, no one is undefeated in this entire tournament. And this is the last day for someone to possibly go into the grand finals with that goal in mind. And right now, if anyone's going to do that in this group, it would be the hot tub. But right now, the Shelby is trying to keep the Honda Civic from passing him, but he almost forgot about the hot tub who caught up at the same time. And now the Shelby is trying to keep the hot tub from passing him, and each turn, it looks like the hot tub is getting slightly closer. And now that gap is closed. But now the hot tub is trying to find a way around him. So far unable to do it. But after that jump, it's the Shelby GT that ends up on their back after spinning. And the hot tub finishes in first yet again. Meanwhile, the Honda Civic gets a much needed second place finish. Not as good as first place, obviously, but it's certainly better than not finishing at all like they did the first time. Yeah, the hot tub almost had their streak ended early, but the Shelby GT could not stay on their feet. Meanwhile, the Honda Civic did a little bit of a grind right before the finish line. And now the hot tub just needs one more win to automatically move on to today's finals. Let's see if they can get it. They are starting in the front half of this group on this particular heat. And it looks like the Shelby GT is pushing them forward just a little bit, which the hot tub takes full advantage of and now has the lead. And now that gap is getting bigger and bigger, and they go around that turn with no one anywhere near them. And the other 3 are trying to fight for second place at this point. But the hot tub needs to stay on their feet, because that jump is going to make it difficult. Just because you are in first for most of the race doesn't mean you'll stay that way. And just like that, the hot tub not only rolls over, but goes over the side of the track. It looked like they might have been able to save it, but just could not do it. And the Tacoma will finish in first that time. The poor hot tub streak is already over. But their 2 first place finishes definitely helps them keep their chances alive of moving on. That was rough. It looked like they were tumbling on the edge of the wall for a little bit before going over, which must have been even more painful than just flat out flying over the edge. And because he didn't finish, and because the Tacoma finished in first that time, I believe they are now tied at 10 points apiece. Meanwhile, the other 2 are tied at just 5. Meaning, basically, Honda Civic and Shelby GT are out at this point unless they can get some miracle where the hot tub and the Tacoma don't finish at all, but the Honda Civic and Shelby GT would both need to finish in first simultaneously. But for now, the hot tub is way out in front, Can they stay on their feet this time going around that jump? No, they fly off the track yet again! And the Tacoma will take the win this time. But because the Shelby GT and the Honda Civic, neither one of them finishing in first, I believe the hot tub will still move on alongside the Tacoma. Let's see what happened here. They didn't do much spinning. In fact, they almost clean went over the edge that time, but they caught the lip on the way down, causing them to also flip over as they were landing. 2 first-place finishes and then 2 instances of flying clear off the track. But I believe the hot tub will still move on. Let's see. Yes, they will. They will move on alongside the Tacoma. Let's see who will join them from the second group. We have the Ferrari 458, the 65 Mustang, the Corvette, and the Dodge. These are the last entries in the regular season before the grand finals begins. And 2 of them will join in on the finals alongside the Tacoma and the hot tub. So far it's looking pretty good for the Corvette as they are pulling away from the other 3 who are staying relatively close together. And it looks like they're doing really well so far, aside from that little instance of staying relatively straight. And now let's see if they can do that going into this turn, leading into the jump. The turn looks good. They almost grind the edge a little bit, but they go completely sideways and they go to a stop. And it is the Ferrari who finishes in first. And the Mustang right behind him, and the Dodge gets stuck behind the Corvette while on their back. Let's see what happened with the Dodge. How did they get on their back? Obviously, it's the jump. They actually looked like they had a really decent landing, but something caused them to flip over just as they finished their landing. But the other 2 managed to get around them somehow. So the Ferrari is now in the best position to move on alongside the Mustang. But anything can happen in these next 3 races. Here we go. So right now it is the Mustang and the Corvette starting in the front 2 spots. But the Corvette is pulling away once more. And the Mustang actually tried to fight to hold on to second place, but the Ferrari kept bumping into him going around that turn, and now he is in second. Meanwhile, the Corvette is trying to maintain a lead again, but so far, the others are trying to catch up. They're a little bit closer this time, though still relatively further away. The Corvette goes around the turn, they go up the hill, and they didn't have enough speed to really go airborne, but that may be for the best right now, as they now finish in first, and I think the Ferrari managed to finish in second, just ahead of the Mustang. We'll take a look at the replay yet again just to be sure, but it's pretty clear that the Dodge finished in 4th. Yep, it is the Ferrari who finished in second that time, and because of that first place finish, the Corvette is now able to breathe a little bit, knowing that they've caught up to at least second place, keeping their hopes alive to move on. The Dodge has a lot of work to do. In heat number 3, going around that turn, it is the Ferrari who starts out in the lead, and the Corvette tried to pass him, but he nudged the Ferrari in the process, causing him to go sliding sideways. I tried to say both words simultaneously. And now we have a 3-way race near the front, and the Dodge is trying to get past the Corvette and the Ferrari. So far, he loses on that speed a little bit, and the 2 leaders go into that jump, and somehow the Ferrari, despite being on his back, was able to get pushed far enough to still finish in first, and the Corvette finished in second. Meanwhile, the Dodge finished in 3rd that time, and the Mustang in 4th. That was a wacky turn of events. Usually when someone lands on their back, they come to a stop. But somehow the Ferrari managed to have so much momentum going forward, which may have been helped by a push from the Corvette, that they finished in first despite that. And now looking at the scores, the Ferrari has 11, the Mustang has 6, and let's see what the other 2 had. The Corvette actually has 8. So despite not finishing in that first race, they are in second place for points. If they can maintain that, then they will move on alongside what will likely be the Ferrari going into the finals. Speaking of which, the Ferrari does have the lead, and it's the Dodge who's in second right now. But they are bouncing off the walls a little bit, and the Corvette tries to pass him. But the Dodge manages to block him going around that turn, and now the Ferrari has a decent-sized lead. And now they approach that jump, and they go completely upside down again, and they just fell short of the finish line. Someone will have to bump them across. And the Corvette managed to do it, and the Corvette also finished in second. I believe that will mean the Ferrari and the Corvette will move on. As for the Mustang, they didn't even finish in that race, and I believe he and the Dodge will not be moving on to the finals for today. The last finals before the grand finals, actually. And look at that, they almost pulled it off again, but they did need a little bit of a push that time around. And it will be the Corvette and the Ferrari moving on. We now have our last group before the grand finals will start. We will have the Corvette, the Hot Tub, the Ferrari, and the Tacoma race each other. Let's see what happens. Race number 1, the Tacoma and the Ferrari are out in front right now. And it looks like the Corvette is trying to push the Ferrari so that he can grab second place. So far successful. And now the Corvette now has the lead. They managed to go from third to first somehow in that transition. But the Ferrari is right behind him trying to pass him up again. And the Corvette ends up going sideways, and now all four are staying relatively close together. The Hot Tub is trying to catch up now, managing to pass the Tacoma. And now they go over this hill with a little bit of a party, actually, for the lack of a better word. And the Ferrari somehow managed to finish in first. Look at this. They clashed in mid-air, and the Ferrari was pushed forward enough, I guess, that they managed to take first place in that race. And the Hot Tub managed to finish in second, the Corvette in third, and the Tacoma in fourth. Now, I still think this could be anyone's game based on how that race went. But the Ferrari and the Hot Tub are now in the front two spots. And they go around that turn. The Ferrari did have the inside, but the Hot Tub managed to take the lead. And they caused the Ferrari to lose some momentum. But now the Ferrari and the Corvette are closing in fast. They're trying to find some way to gain enough speed to not only catch up to Hot Tub, but find a way to smoothly pass them without losing speed. But they actually have to catch up with them first, and the Hot Tub goes into the air, manages to stay on their feet this time, and ends up going backwards across the finish line in first. Meanwhile, what happened to the Ferrari? They were in second, and now we don't see them. They went over the side. I could have sworn they made it over that jump, but I guess they didn't. Let's take a look. Oh, it looked like they tried to save themselves by catching the lip on the way down. But the way the momentum carried them, they went over the side. With a non-finish, their odds of moving on just greatly decreased. And now the Hot Tub is in a much better position compared to the others. The Ferrari finishing in first the first time, it definitely helps them because they are still tied for second in points. So their chances didn't decrease as much as I initially thought. But they will need to stay away from flying off the track, which could be difficult. Right now the Corvette is in front of the Hot Tub though, and the Hot Tub is actually closing the gap alongside the Ferrari right behind him. So far the Corvette does not have enough of a lead to maintain it if they slow down. They have a nice jump, but they land on their backs, and they manage to spin around in such a way where they had the Hot Tub force themselves to push the Corvette forward, finishing in first. Meanwhile, the Tacoma wasn't so lucky. Meanwhile, the Ferrari actually did a little bit of grinding and managed to stay on the track this time. But the Tacoma, something caused them to lose all their speed as they approached the finish. Oh, it looks like they bumped into the Ferrari, who stopped him from finishing. That is a really risky move. You generally do not want to do that. because you could risk them passing you and losing all your points for that race. But leading into heat number 4, the Corvette has 10, the hot tub has 11, the Ferrari has 7, and the Tacoma only has 3. So the Tacoma is essentially out at this point, but they can still affect how the other 3 will finish here. Right now, all 4 are staying relatively close together, but the Tacoma is falling behind just a little bit while the other 3 are fighting first place. Right now, Corvette does have the lead, but the other 2 are nudging into him constantly. And now they go over this hill. All 3 of them managed to stay on their feet, but the Ferrari lost enough speed that the hot tub and the Corvette got in front of them. So I believe it'll be the Corvette and the hot tub moving on. We will have to double check the scores in just a moment. This almost feels like a rarity when you see all 4 racers finish, especially on their wheels. And it will be the Corvette and the hot tub moving on. So now we have our Grand Finals roster set. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you for the start of the Grand Finals.